In the virtual universe within a specially formed space. Owu, many green dragons flew in the sky. Ong. Beautiful 7-colored feathered birds could be seen everywhere. In this huge space with a glance there were millions of strange beasts, some beautiful, some ferocious. Millions of beasts circled. A group of majestic, blood-red palaces floated in midair, and in one of the palaces. Pa. A tall and sturdy man with a silver horn fiercely smashed the wine glass in his hand. The translucent glass smashed fiercely on the ground, directly shattering. The silver horn man's expression was ferocious, his eyes like 2 stars burning. He roared in rage. What, you think I'm easy to bully? Demon Note Mountain inheritance is a chance I've worked so hard for my disciple Mist Emperor. You think it's gone just because you say it's gone? Knight. A white-haired old man standing in the palace bowed. It's not that it's gone, but we need to wait for the next batch. Next batch? Next batch? Bullshit, next batch. The silver-horned man roared in rage. Every batch of Demon Note Mountain inheritance has a gap of 10,081 eras. Every batch has a maximum of 32 people. I've spent so many treasures, invested so much. Only after the final vote did I get this one spot. Yet you're telling me that out of the 32 palaces, one has been taken by an unknown being. There's one less spot. What does one less spot have to do with me? On what basis did you erase my disciple's chance? Why didn't you erase the chance of others? The silver-horned man was incomparably furious. The white-haired old man bowed. That time during the vote, Mist Emperor was ranked last out of the 32, hence the higher-ups decided. Scram scram. The silver-horned man fiercely waved his hand. The white-haired old man bowed, not daring to speak anymore, immediately turning to leave. The silver-horned man's expression was ferocious. To think that he was a knight, one of the great eternal beings of the human race, there really wasn't much that could make him lose out, but this time. Those old fellows in the Hong Alliance, after taking my benefits, now they're all so righteous. One less spot, they actually erased my disciple's chance. The silver-horned man was filled with hatred, but he knew very well that since the higher-ups had made a decision, it was useless no matter how angry he was. Who is it? Just who was it that took my disciple's spot? The silver-horned man was filled with hatred. Demonic Note Mountain inheritance. It was 1,000,000 times more precious than the chance to comprehend the 9-universe Chaos Tablet. This was because the Chaos Tablet only guided one to comprehend the laws. On the other hand, the Demonic Note Mountain inheritance was an incomparably detailed cultivation method. As long as one cultivated it step by step, one's strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Wait for the next batch? After 10,081 eras? The more the silver-horned man thought about it, the angrier he became. His disciple, Mist Emperor, was an emperor rank undying. It was extremely difficult to become a venerable. However, to a certain extent, the Demon Note Mountain's inheritance would greatly increase one's chances of becoming a venerable. Now, he didn't know who had seized the opportunity to make his disciple wait for another 100 million years. Luo Feng naturally didn't know about the matters of the upper echelons of the universe. He only knew how to seize opportunities and immerse himself in cultivation. Within the great hall of the Inheritance Palace on the stairs, Luo Feng had already stood on the first step for a day. He closed his eyes and stood silently on the black stone stairs. Within his mind, his spirit energy was constantly training this technique. This nameless technique was temporarily called the Supreme Demon Note Manual. This Supreme Demon Note Manual, according to the information Luo Feng received on the first step, it was split into 2 parts. 1 was the foundation. 2 was the Demon Note Manual. The foundation took up 99% of the Supreme Demon Note Manual's content. The moment one's foundation was solid, the final part of the Demon Note Manual could be easily trained. The foundation here was referring to the strength of the telekinesis amplitude. For example, when Luo Feng controlled a throwing knife, its strongest attack power would reach a certain value. And LuoFeng's limit was simultaneously controlling 78 throwing knives. If the throwing knives could reach their maximum power, then the spirit energy amplitude would be 78. Back when Luo Feng was on Earth, his strength was still very weak. He could simultaneously control over 10 throwing knives to their maximum power. His soul had the spirit energy amplitude. His body had the strength amplitude. The undying altar was used to test one's strength amplitude. Normally, once one's strength amplitude reached 100, one would be able to perfectly control every bit of the body's strength. A strength amplitude of 100, that was the limit under normal circumstances. Same logic. The strength of his telekinesis amplification allowed him to control 100 flying daggers at the same time. Each flying dagger had reached its maximum attack power when it was controlled individually. This was also a limit under normal circumstances. However, that was only the limit under normal circumstances. Like the golden horned beast. When it unleashed its body attacks, its normal strength amplitude was only 80 to 90. However, the moment it unleashed its natural ability, strengthen, it would immediately double, causing its attack power to reach over 100. If it unleashed the deities of the world, its body strength would increase by many times, reaching a few hundred. And the golden horned beast's right claw, the moment it activated the blood river energy, its strength would explode. Its body strength would increase once more. In theory, the limit was 100. However, that was the normal limit. Some special techniques, special treasures would allow one to exceed the normal limit. And these techniques and treasures were all extremely valuable treasures in the universe. The natural ability strengthen was to strengthen the body, soul, etc. The golden horned beast's current soul amplitude was 78. However, the moment it unleashed its natural ability, its attack power would immediately double. And the Supreme Demon Note Manual was a technique similar to the deities of the world in the golden horned beast's memories. However, it was even more ridiculous than deities of the world. Training deities of the world to completion only increased one's attack power by 27 times. However, the secret manual of Supreme Demonic Sound was much stronger. This was an inheritance that truly led to the extreme. It's really mysterious. It's even stronger than deities of the world, such a powerful inheritance. Luo Feng opened his eyes and looked ahead at the stairs that grew taller and taller. With a glance, the stairs led to the endless space. Luo Feng took a deep breath and with a leap, he flew to the second step. When Luo Feng's feet landed on the second step, the incomparably detailed and exquisite technique once again flowed into his mind. Continue training. Day after day. One flight of stairs after another. In this inheritance staircase that led to the endless space, Luo Feng continued to advance. Actually, when he had just received the inheritance, Luo Feng had already received the message. The moment the inheritance began, it couldn't be stopped. He had to constantly train and advance. The process of training was actually a form of torture to his willpower and consciousness. The moment he couldn't handle the torture and stopped training, then, the inheritance would automatically end. In the vast universe over 1 trillion years, there had been over 100,000 life forms that had come to receive the inheritance. However, not a single life form had been able to reach the end of the inheritance stairs. I wonder how long this inheritance will take. This opportunity isn't easy to come by, I can't miss it. Luo Feng was like a beggar crazily eating steamed buns as he madly and obsessively trained. The more he trained, the more he felt his consciousness amplitude increase. Very quickly it surpassed 100. Under normal circumstances, this number was still increasing. It was too powerful. The more he trained, the more he understood that if he were to exchange for this technique in the Virtual Universe Company's treasury, it would definitely be worth astronomical points. Maybe even the treasury of the Virtual Universe Company wouldn't have such a powerful technique. I only have one chance to train. I'll train as much as I can. Who knows, I might even be able to make it to completion. No matter what, if I don't give it my all, how can I live? When Luo Feng was in the core area of Demon Note Mountain, receiving the Demon Note inheritance, the 1,000 Star Sect warriors that Po Yu sent to kill him back then had a headache. 6 months later. Virtual Universe, there was an island specially for the 9-star ocean warriors to live in. On the 9-star ocean island, there was a palace that occupied an extremely vast area. This was the headquarters of the famous 1,000 Star Sect within the Virtual Universe Company. Within one of the palaces, God. 2 sector lords and 2 domain lords bowed respectfully. A breathtakingly beautiful woman with jade-colored long hair sat on the throne in the main hall. She lazily leaned against the back of the chair and glanced below. The 4 of you still haven't found the target? Yes, God. The 4 of them were nervous. The 4 of them were the 6 warriors from the 1,000 Star Sect that were sent this time. As for the other 2, they had already died within Demon Note Mountain. A bunch of trash. The absolute beauty snorted coldly, I'll give you another half a year. I hope you don't disappoint me. Yes. The 4 were drenched in cold sweat. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, the 4 of them had been in Demon Note Mountain for a year. In this year, another domain lord had died. That was because of the Demon Note. Unknowingly, he had become a zombie. In the end, the 3 survivors all escaped from the Demonic Note Mountain. Congratulations, you've survived for a year in Demon Note Mountain. You have all the rights to join the Virtual Universe Company. The Virtual Universe Company troops stationed outside Demon Note Mountain, the lowest-level silver-clothed attendants swiftly went to welcome the 3 survivors. Bayan and the other 2 1,000 Star Sect warriors glanced at each other helplessly. They came to Demon Note Mountain because of Po Yu's request. In truth, they didn't even want to join the Virtual Universe Company and be servants. Bring the 3 of them to me. A voice rang in the ears of the group of silver-clothed executors. Yes, Po Yu. The silver-clothed deacons immediately brought Bayan and the other 2 to Marquis Po Yu's divine hall. Deep within the shrine, within a certain hall, Marquis Po Yu was lying on the throne, her dark green snake tail coiled beside the throne. Her eyes were looking down at the trembling Bayan and the other 2. God. The 3 knelt down. Po Yu waved her hand and immediately forcefully took the storage ring from the domain lord's finger, directly breaking his spirit imprint and taking out the E9 grade laser gun. God, the target is only a universe level 9, and we haven't discovered him in a year. He hasn't left Demon Note Mountain either. It's very likely he was killed by someone else in Demon Note Mountain. Or maybe he was bewitched by the Demon Note and became a zombie. The strongest sector lord level 9 Bayan said. Let's hope so. Po Yu nodded, following which he gazed at the 3 below. The 3's eyes immediately froze. Following which putong, they slumped to the ground dead. However, you know too much, you have to die. Po Yu said coldly. Sending people to kill a genius the Virtual Universe Company valued, the moment they found out, an official level undying. Even if she didn't die, she would be locked up in the space prison. It's been a year. That punk, he's most likely dead. Po Yu muttered softly, following which he smiled charmingly, as though the surroundings had become colorful. Marquis Po Yu lazily curled up on the throne. Her jade-like fingers gently tapped on the armrest. Her gaze swept across the 3 corpses. The space in the hall slightly trembled. A faint spatial ripple that contained immortal laws swept across the three corpses. The three corpses instantly turned into dust with three sizzling sounds. That punk, he's probably dead, however, he's just interest. Po Yu muttered softly. Suddenly hurried footsteps resounded from outside. Master. Hurried shouts resounded from outside the palace. Come in. Po Yu frowned slightly and said. Immediately, a handsome youth dressed in purple with silver armor rushed in. This handsome youth's eyes were sunken in, his pupils were jade green, and on his forehead were some engravings. This handsome youth's face was filled with rage. After rushing in, he knelt down and shouted, Master, please save my home. Emocha planet. What's wrong? Po Yu frowned slightly. Your home planet Emocha is a powerful planet, with many undyings. Why do you need me to save you? Master, it's a few people from my home who unintentionally offended Mist Emperor's power. Who would have thought that the high and mighty Mist Emperor would personally make a move, using a powerful space technique, forcefully sucking my home planet Emocha, the entire planet, into his god country. The handsome youth was about to cry. The planet was sucked into the god country? Po Yu was shocked. God country. This was the life of an undying. Sector lords had internal worlds, undyings had god countries. The moment the internal world crumbled, the sector lord would die without a doubt. The moment the god country crumbled, the weaker undyings would immediately die. And some undyings with secret techniques and treasures might be able to survive, but their strength would drop to an extremely low level. And their future would be basically gone. It could be said, the god country was half of an undying's life. The god country had many uses. The reason why undyings were so strong was because of the god country. In the god country the undying strength would rise, however, sucking the enemy into the god country, even though their own strength would rise. But it would also give the enemy a chance to attack the god country. Hence, unless they had 100% confidence, or were forced to the point where they had no other choice, very rarely would they suck the enemy into the god country. Taking an entire planet into the divine kingdom? Your home planet has been absorbed into Mist Monarch's divine country. The outcome will definitely be very tragic. Marquis Po Yu sat on her throne looking down at her disciples. If it's just destruction, he can destroy your home planet with a single punch. But he went to great lengths to capture your home planet and bring it into his divine kingdom. He won't stop until he tortures it. How did your people from your home planet offend him? Marquis Po Yu frowned. Just a small matter. The handsome young man knelt down in front of the hall, shouting in grievance. In the past there were often conflicts. Such small matters were usually handled by Mist Monarch's subordinates. But I didn't expect that this time, Mist Monarch actually personally took action, directly absorbing my home planet into his divine country. Master, please save my homeworld, shouted the handsome youth immediately. I have no choice. Marquis Po Yu shook her head. Master. The handsome youth's eyes were filled with tears. Marquis Po Yu looked down at the kneeling disciples and said softly, let me try. Closing her eyes, a thread of her consciousness connected to the virtual universe network, she went to find a good friend to talk to Mist Emperor. In just a short while. You can leave. Marquis Po Yu opened her eyes and said, Master? The handsome youth looked up, looking at Marquis Po Yu in the throne, his face filled with anticipation. Who asked your home planet to offend Mist Monarch? It's coincidentally his most furious moment. Marquis Po Yu frowned and roared, nobody can save your home planet. The handsome youth gripped his fist. Leave. Marquis Po Yu ordered coldly. Yes. The handsome youth didn't dare say much, afraid of angering this cold master of his, leaving respectfully. Only Marquis Po Yu was left on the throne. Marquis Po Yu frowned and muttered to herself, no wonder Mist Monarch was so angry. His powerful teacher gave him a spot to enter Demon Note Mountain, but it was taken by someone else. TSK, this wait will have to wait until 10,081 eras before there will be a new chance. If it was me I'd be furious too. I just don't know who exactly took the slot. A majestic god country. The endless ocean rippled. Within the seawater were scattered pieces of ice. Above the endless ocean floated a group of dark green majestic palaces. At the center of these palaces was a dark green divine statue that was millions of kilometers tall. Mist King statue. Hundreds of millions of kilometers away from the palace complex, there was a planet with a diameter of more than 30,000 kilometers hovering in the air. Silhouettes flew out from this planet, kneeling in mid-air, kowtowing and begging. Mist Emperor. Spare me. Spare my Emocha planet. We are guilty. We are guilty. A few undying and sector lords knelt in mid-air, their voices rumbling out. At this time within their home, Emocha planet, there were flashes of lightning, flames, snowflakes, icicles shooting down from the skies. It was a nightmare scene. Mist Emperor. He had long dark green hair, a squarish face, and a pair of eyes that were even crazier than a star beast. He wore an exquisite battle robe and stood in mid-air, coldly watching Emocha planet go through all kinds of torture. Spare me? Guilty? Mist Emperor sneered, too late. Too late. Too late. Too late. Too late. His voice reverberated in the ears of the kneeling Emocha warriors. Those undying and sector lords were all in pain, regret, hatred. But they had no choice. Mist Emperor, as an emperor-level undying, was too strong. Mist Emperor's god country contained even more shocking might. Just the pressure of the god country caused the undying to be unable to resist. 10,081 eras, over 100 million years. From birth till now such a long time has passed, it's only been 12,000 eras. To make me wait so long. Mist Emperor got angrier the more he thought, his fists clenched even tighter, causing the surrounding space to tremble, faintly forming cracks. Just which bastard took my slot? Just who is it? Mist Monarch roared in rage. As for that floating planet, its fate was even more tragic. In the vast universe, humanity's virtual universe company controlled one of the 4 core regions, the absolute beginning region, Demon Mountain. Demon Note, one of the 32 inheritance palaces. Luo Feng was focused on receiving the inheritance. How would he know that he had taken Mist Emperor's slot? Even for an Emperor level undying. 10081 eras was still a very long time. From birth till now Mist Emperor had only lived for 12,000 eras. That was equivalent to living to 30 and preparing to get married, however the heavens ordered. Don't rush, wait another 30 years, wait until you're 60 before getting married. Who wouldn't be anxious? Who wouldn't be angry? Within the inheritance palace. Black mist pervaded the area, the inheritance stairs extended layer by layer into space. In theory, a 10 kilometers long and wide inheritance palace shouldn't be too shocking, however LuoFeng's naked eye could see, it probably exceeded 1,000 kilometers. This effect of having a world within a grain of sand, Luo Feng was rather calm. After all, if a sector lord could do it, the absolute being that left behind the inheritance palace could do it as well, that wasn't strange. I've completed another portion. Luo Feng opened his eyes, his face filled with excitement, becoming a beam of light and flying towards the next level. As his boots landed on the next level, the inheritance stairs, the even more profound training techniques immediately flowed into Luo Feng's memories. Simultaneously there was a slight sound in space beside the stairs. Luo Feng turned to look. Mysterious words appeared in space. It was the same style as the words on the stone tablet before, a large paragraph of words. Even though Luo Feng didn't know what it was, he immediately understood the meaning. Beginner? Luo Feng was shocked. The meaning of the words in space was, life form that has come to receive the inheritance. You've already received 1/10 of the Demon Note Inheritance's first part. The Demon Note Inheritance has a total of 3 parts. To be able to complete the first part, you'll receive the beginner title and the beginner level reward. The end of the first part is that distant palace. The beginner's reward is there. Work hard. Rumble. The inheritance stairs Luo Feng was standing on had already extended very long, and it was still extending into space, extending level after level. Finally, after extending very far, at the end of the stairs, in the distant space, there was a shrine that was hard to see with the naked eye. The end of the first part? The beginner's reward? Luo Feng looked at the distant palace in space thinking, I've already been receiving the inheritance for about a year, I've probably received about 300 levels of the inheritance. It's actually only 1/10 of the first part. Then the first part, doesn't it have over 3,000 levels? The first part had over 3,000 levels. A total of 3 parts. If the next 2 parts had the same amount, it would be about 10,000 levels. Completing all the stairs and receiving the entire inheritance, how long would that take? Luo Feng couldn't help but be shocked within. That was what he said. However, in reality, Demon Mountain had existed for 1 trillion years, and the tens of thousands of life forms that had received the inheritance, none of them had ever received the entire inheritance. There's no point in thinking so much. I'll first completely receive the first part of the inheritance and become the beginner, then I'll be able to receive the rewards within the palace. Luo Feng anticipated within, this inheritance palace's design is pretty awesome. I think the rewards won't be too bad either. I wonder what it is, treasures? Weapons? Armor? Luo Feng thought for a while, he didn't think anymore, continuing to fully immerse himself in training the techniques on the stairs. In just a year's time, after receiving this part of the inheritance, Luo Feng felt his strength rise by many times. This inheritance was indeed a very heaven-defying technique. If Luo Feng were to give a price for it, it would truly be a priceless treasure. Even more awesome than the entire time-space notes. I really have to thank Mo Luo for that kick. Luo Feng exclaimed within. Back when he first arrived at the inheritance palace, Luo Feng's Masha clansmen had already entered the internal world, and the core was within his earth body. Within Luo Feng's body, within the core. A soul that had already been condensed into a crystal ball. At this time there was mist floating around it. It was Luo Feng's spirit energy. Countless amounts of spirit energy were forming engravings. Large amounts of engravings entered the crystal ball. Almost like a virus spreading, the entire soul crystal absorbed the engravings and slowly began to change. Even though the changes were minute, it couldn't withstand the constant evolution. It didn't stop for even a moment. Luo Feng's earth body and the golden horned beast were both controlling their spirit energy to train their souls. Over 100 tempering into steel. A piece of metal was forged into steel over and over again. At this time Luo Feng's soul was going through a similar process. In the process of training the Supreme Demon Note, his soul was constantly changing and evolving just like scrap metal becoming steel. Luo Feng's soul was also changing like this. It was a little similar to Deities of the World. Deities of the World was a transformation of the body. After unleashing Deities of the World, the body could shrink, causing the density of the muscles, bones, scales etc. to rapidly increase. The ultimate demonic sound secret technique, which accounted for 99% of the basic chapters, was a transformation of the soul. Unleashing this technique, one soul could raise one's soul control greatly. A normal sector lord soul, under the precondition that the weapons were at their strongest, could at most control 100 weapons. A normal sector lord's body could at most unleash 100 weapons. When Luo Feng stepped onto the 100th level, his spirit energy amplifier had already reached 100. This was the traditional definition of a sector lord's limit. And now Luo Feng had already stepped into the 360th level, his spirit energy amplifier had already reached over 360. What was the concept? When he first arrived at the Inheritance Palace, his spirit energy amplifier was 70 to 80, now it was over 360. It had increased by 5 times. Just like when Luo Feng first had 1 gun to shoot. Now he had 5 guns to shoot. His spirit energy output was 5 times faster than before. That's like 5 against 1. Luo Feng looked at the inheritance stairs extending downwards, looking at the distant palace in space, he couldn't help but get excited. Virtual Universe, Yuxiang Mountains Public Region, top floor of a quiet restaurant. Tru Yen, who was wearing golden armor, leaned against the sofa. His eyelids were drooping, and his whole body was faintly emitting a suppressed rage. The entire room on the top floor was filled with this aura. Even the waiters of the restaurant were so scared that they stood aside, not daring to breathe. They swallowed and held their breath. Jie Tru Yen King. A slightly sharp and strange cold laughter directly entered the room on the top floor. 2 people walked up the stairs. One of them was as thin as a skeleton. His eyes were like 2 balls of fire and he had a goatee on his chin. His entire body was covered in a large golden robe, and he was also holding 2 golden balls in his hands which he kept spinning. Behind him was a handsome young man, Mo Luo. Mo Luo was quite old, but because of his race's bloodline he wasn't tall and looked like a teenager. He's here. Tru Yen glanced at him. Haha, Tru Yen King, you're looking for my disciple because you need my help. In front of me, don't be so ugly. The gold-robed skinny old man laughed and laid on the sofa, simultaneously ordering, "Waiters, get out." Yes. The waiters immediately left obediently. The entire room was only left with 3. Tru Yen, Mo Luo and his teacher Mo Luo. If it wasn't for my disciple Luo Feng, I wouldn't even bother to see you. Just looking at you makes me sick. Tru Yen laughed coldly. Haha, you really make me feel honored. The gold-robed skinny old man laughed weirdly. This gold-robed skinny old man was someone with a high position in the Virtual Universe Company. He too had passed the 20th level of the Heavenly Bridge, and was extremely close to the Night level. His title was Prison Frog Emperor. This Prison Frog Emperor and Tru Yen had always been enemies. Both of their talents were heaven-defying. Of which Tru Yen was known for his straightforward and ferocious temper. Prison Frog Emperor was known for his ruthlessness and viciousness. As their personalities completely clashed, Tru Yen did things openly and righteously, while Prison Frog Emperor was incomparably sinister. Hence the two had always hated each other. Prison Frog Emperor treated Tru Yen as his life's rival. However, Tru Yen always looked down on Prison Frog Emperor. Even though he looked down on him, in terms of strength the two were very close. These two. They were extremely close to the Night level. Amongst the Emperor level undyings they belonged to the pinnacle. The two each had their own strengths. Of course Tru Yen's strength could suppress his opponent, but it was very hard to kill him. Speak. Tru Yen glanced at Mo Luo who was standing behind Prison Frog Emperor. You said your disciple Mo Luo went to Demon Mountain too. He even met my disciple Luo Feng. Tell me, when did you meet him? What's the situation? Anxious. The gold-robed skinny old man looked at Tru Yen. Tru Yen snorted coldly. He was indeed anxious. Because the Virtual Universe Company had informed him before that Luo Feng had been in Demon Note Mountain for over a year. However, there hadn't been any news from him. And Demon Note Mountain was an impossible level environment. The moment one encountered a terrifying Demon Note, one would unknowingly become a zombie. Under normal circumstances, these geniuses would occasionally enter the Virtual Universe Network. However, this year, Luo Feng hadn't entered the Virtual Universe Network at all. This made the Virtual Universe Company suspicious. Was he dead? Naturally, they informed Luo Feng's closest teacher, Tru Yen. Tru Yen knew that Luo Feng had gone to Demon Mountain. The moment he received the Virtual Universe Company's notice, he immediately sent emails and requested for a call etc. to contact Luo Feng. However, there was no reply at all. It was almost as though Luo Feng was already dead. In such a situation there were only 2 answers. 1. Luo Feng was already dead. Naturally there was no reply. 2. Luo Feng was in closed-door training, or immersed in some incomparably important training. He didn't want to be disturbed, hence he closed the Virtual Universe Network. Anxious. The gold-robed skinny old man laughed weirdly. Looks like your disciple hasn't been replying to you. Actually not replying to you, doesn't mean he's dead. Who knows, he might be in closed-door training or something. Ah. The gold-robed skinny old man smacked his head. I'm muddle-headed. Your disciple is in Demon Note Mountain. Demon Note Mountain is filled with demon notes. He can't even stop at one place, much less go into closed-door training. It's impossible for him to train. Then he's probably dead. Tru Yan's expression sunk. His eyes glowed gold and he roared, Prison Fish Emperor, I originally wanted to converse with your disciple. However, you forcefully interfered. I gave you face and converse with you. Don't talk nonsense here. Don't be anxious. The gold-robed skinny old man waved his hand. My good disciple, tell him. Yes. Mo Luo bowed respectfully. Tru Yen. Mo Luo bowed too. Tru Yen looked at the respectful and courteous Mo Luo. He couldn't help but glance at the gold-robed skinny old man. Such a good disciple to be under your tutelage, it's a waste. Umph. The gold-robed skinny old man laughed in disdain. Speak. Tru Yen looked at Mo Luo. When did you meet Luo Feng? Tru Yen. Mo Luo said respectfully. It was a year ago. A year ago? Tru Yen frowned. The virtual universe company's information was from about a year ago. Luo Feng hadn't entered the virtual universe network. A year. With Tru Yen's long lifespan, a year was simply too short. However, in Demon Note Mountain's environment, a year was simply too long. I'm still in Demon Note Mountain. Mo Luo said respectfully. However, I've never seen Luo Feng. Ah. Tru Yen frowned even deeper. Tru Yen, you probably don't know yet, that disciple of yours had ambushed my disciple in Demon Note Mountain. The gold-robed skinny old man said. Ambushed? Tru Yen stared hard at Mo Luo. My disciple Luo Feng ambushed you? Mo Luo was slightly nervous. Don't be afraid. The gold-robed skinny old man sat in the sofa and raised a glass of fruit wine. He waved his hand casually. With my teacher here, this ape man has no way of touching you. Speak the truth from start to finish. Speak the truth. Tru Yen stared at Mo Luo. Mo Luo took a deep breath and said, Senior Tru Yen, it's like this. I entered Demon Note Mountain earlier than Luo Feng by a period of time. In Demon Note Mountain, I discovered some Demon Note patterns. Hence I stayed in a region not too far away from the beast hordes. Even though that region wasn't too far away from the beast hordes, the Demon Note strength was constantly changing, hence it was easier to deduce. One day, when I heard the beast roar, I knew that someone had angered them again. Mo Luo took a deep breath, obviously nervous. I've met with this a few times before. This time, I too hid and observed from afar. However, I saw that person actually use the cloud contact vine. I immediately guessed, that person definitely wasn't an aboriginal. A universe level 9 aboriginal definitely couldn't have a domain lord level 9 assisting plant life form. Mo Luo said. Hence I helped too. The two of us worked together and finally destroyed that beast. After which, we immediately fled. When he saw me, he immediately recognized me. After which he returned to his original form. I looked, it was Luo Feng. To be able to see one of us in Demon Note Mountain, I was really happy. I chatted with him for a while and swiftly fled together. Because the beast behind us would continue to chase after us after it condensed. However, I didn't expect. Mo Luo's body was trembling. Tru Yen frowned. He actually ambushed me when I wasn't on guard. At such a close distance, I couldn't even defend in time and was instantly heavily injured. After which I fought with my life and managed to survive. Mo Luo shook his head bitterly. Actually, the moment I was ambushed, I understood. He probably saw me as an opponent in the qualification battles. Now that he's gotten rid of me, he'll have a higher chance of entering the primal region during the qualification battles. Tru Yen, you heard that right. The gold-robed skinny old man laughed coldly. Tru Yen looked at Mo Luo who was standing there obediently. Towards this primal region genius Mo Luo, Tru Yen actually had a good impression of him. However, the story that Mo Luo told made Tru Yen frown. He asked in a low voice, is what you said true? Senior Tru Yen. Mo Luo bowed slightly. This matter was only answered truthfully after my teacher asked. Other than that, I didn't tell anyone else. Tru Yen snorted coldly. Leave, all of you leave. You're angry Tru Yen, you're angry The gold-robed skinny old man laughed proudly. Mo Luo bowed slightly. Tru Yen squinted his eyes, gold light gleaming. Let's go. The gold-robed skinny old man laughed twice and vanished. Mo Luo too vanished, leaving only Tru Yen alone in the room. Tru Yen's expression was cold, snorting softly. If I hadn't interacted with my disciple for so many years, I would have suspected. However, that punk Luo Feng is definitely the most resolute and decisive amongst all my disciples, the one with the most principles. After interacting with his disciple for so long, Tru Yen really valued him. Heart like a mirror, seeing through all lies. Heart like a blade, slicing through all illusions. To be able to do this, one would definitely have his own principles and bottom line. Such a person was extremely prideful in his bones. Like entering the primal region, if he wanted to, he would definitely use his true strength to do so. He definitely wouldn't use such disgusting methods like assassinating his opponent to win. Disciple, I believe you're still alive. Something special must have happened in Demon Note Mountain that affected you. Tru Yen said softly. At this time, a thought flashed in his mind. Demon Note Mountain's 32 inheritance palaces, he recently found out that one of them was occupied by an unknown life form. If only that life form was his disciple. I really can't control my thoughts. Tru Yen laughed and shook his head. This disciple of mine only failed after reaching the 10th island in Fantasy Ocean. That Mo Luo could survive until now, he definitely can too. Time passed. Day after day, year after year. Luo Feng was completely immersed in the Demon Note inheritance. Step by step, his soul was constantly changing. Some special techniques required the soul to be modified before they could be used. Just like his teacher Hu Yenbo's soul imprint, it required the soul to be modified too. The soul had some special properties to be able to use special techniques. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. In the cave under the ice layer of the Demon Mountain, the massacre ended in an instant. Mo Luo gently licked the blood on his fingers and glanced at the corpse beneath his feet. You, a native, should be proud to die in the hands of a peak genius like me. If it wasn't for the 10,000 black tags, I wouldn't even bother. Mo Luo quickly grabbed a space belt and used his telekinesis to investigate. 31 black badges? Mo Luo's face was filled with joy. Ah, my luck is really good. Ah, Yen Yen Ming Feng Long, Luo, Feng, ha. Yen, said Luo. But since I've successfully killed 2 world overlords, it would be easier for me to accumulate black tokens. 10,000 black tags, finally enough. Mo Luo's eyes gleamed. It's been 3.5 years since I entered Demon Mountain. I could have left half a year ago. It's all for these black tags that I've endured till now, thinking of all sorts of traps, etc. My hard work pays off. Mo Luo smiled, his smile was filled with glee. From start to finish, he was very satisfied with everything he did in Demon Mountain. No matter if it was investigating the situation in Demon Mountain, arranging the safest environment for himself, or ambushing Luo Feng, assassinating the aboriginal sector lords, everything was perfect. No one can block my path. Mo Luo muttered softly, my teacher is stupid too. Sinister, savage? If everyone knows you're sinister, then that's not sinister, it's just stupid. After which, Mo Luo turned and swiftly began his return journey. The return journey was very easy, because during the process of entering Demon Note Mountain, be it the Aboriginals or the Virtual Universe Company's majesties, they would swiftly memorize the route they took. With the memory and calculation abilities of the strong, according to the routes they took, meeting points, etc., they could swiftly form an incomparably accurate map in their minds. Based on the map in their minds, they would find a safe and shorter route and swiftly return. When Mo Luo flew out from one of the caves in Demon Note Mountain, he was immediately welcomed respectfully by the silver-clothed attendants. Your Majesty Mo Luo. Your Majesty Mo Luo, please. The group of silver-clothed attendants escorted Mo Luo. Very quickly, a white-robed youth swiftly came to welcome him. It was Yi Chang who welcomed Luo Feng before. Your Majesty Mo Luo. The white-robed youth smiled and led the way. Your Majesty, being able to spend over 3 years in Demon Note Mountain, Yi Chang respects you. Mo Luo smiled and nodded. Please lead the way, I've already collected 10,000 black tags. 10,000 black tags? The white-robed youth was shocked. My god. To collect 10,000 black tags was simply too difficult, because even those majesties who spent huge amounts of money to buy the E-grade laser guns found it hard to succeed. This was because the E-grade laser gun required a period of charging time. Just this charging time was enough for a sector lord to easily kill them. The difference between a sector lord and a universe level 9 was simply too huge. Hence collecting 10,000 black tags was even harder than surviving for 3 years. Congratulations, Your Majesty, congratulations, Your Majesty. The white-robed youth immediately felt that this Majesty Mo Luo's future would be even more shocking. Immediately he became even more respectful and passionate. It's been a long time since anyone has received 10,000 black tags as a reward. I heard that the reward is extremely shocking. Extremely shocking? What treasure? Mo Luo's heart skipped a beat. I don't have the authority to know. The white-robed youth said softly, however I heard that it's a shocking treasure. Hurry and lead the way. Mo Luo was tempted to. Yes. When Mo Luo safely left Demon Mountain and went to acquire the treasure, Luo Feng was proceeding with the biggest treasure of Demon Mountain, accepting the Demon Note inheritance. Inheritance stairs. Level after level of stairs extended into the depths of space. That incomparably small palace. What do? I'm almost at my limit. Luo Feng stood on the 1129 stairs, turning back to look at the blur of stairs that extended downwards. He then looked up at the even further stairs, frowning. According to the Supreme Demon Note Manual's information, I estimate that I'll reach my limit after another 100 to 200 levels. Luo Feng was helpless. When he had just received the inheritance, Luo Feng already knew a lot of information. The Demon Note inheritance belonged to one of the more mysterious inheritances in the vast universe. It was one of the pinnacle inheritances, and its requirements for the soul were incredibly harsh. Right, it was incredibly harsh. It was so harsh that over 1 trillion years, batch after batch of inheritors hadn't been able to complete the inheritance. To be able to make it this far, 99% of them were undyings. Undyings after undyings hadn't succeeded. How harsh was the difficulty? The Demon Note inheritance had harsh requirements for the soul. And absorbing the Blood River crystals had harsh requirements for the body. In Blood River world, it was hard to even find someone who could absorb 10 crystals. And the Golden Horned Beast had absorbed over 90 crystals. This was the reason why the body cells were extremely strong. The Demon Note Divine General's inheritance was to find a peerless genius whose soul was extremely compatible with this set of mystic arts. If there was such a genius who could cultivate from the beginning to the end, he could become the unique Demon Note Divine General in the universe. The inheritance had extremely high requirements for the soul. And the souls of the Undyings had all undergone the transformation from Sector Lord to Undying. Hence almost every Undying soul was stronger than LuoFeng's, and by a lot. Many Undyings were stuck at the end of the first level. A portion of them were stuck at the second level. Only a handful of them were stuck at the third level. There was no life in the universe that had passed all 3 levels. And Luo Feng? His soul was only Domain Lord level 9, he hadn't even gone through the most important transformation. Sector Lord to Undying. Hence in terms of soul, Luo Feng was indeed much weaker than the Undyings. Luckily he had gone through the Primal Chaos Spirit Fusion in Primal Chaos City, his willpower and consciousness control was extremely strong, allowing him to make it to the 1129 level. However, the moment he felt the strain on his soul, it meant that his soul had already reached 90% of its limit. This was one of the information in the inheritance. I'm already feeling the strain, I'm almost at my limit. My limit should be between 1200 to 1300 levels. Luo Feng thought, and the first level should be about 3000 levels. His limit was actually only 1/3 of the first level. He had no choice. This inheritance was originally meant for the Undyings, with his domain lord level 9 soul rushing in, it would be strange how much he could withstand. What do I do? Luo Feng looked up ahead. In the distant depths of the void, that tiny shrine was the end of the first level. Once one reached it, one would be a beginner and receive the reward. This demon mountain that had existed for countless years in the universe, the treasures left behind by that ancient being definitely wouldn't be bad. However, one had to pass the first level to get it. I'm still over 2000 levels away from the shrine. And my limit, I can only take another 100 to 200 levels. Luo Feng trained while thinking of a way. Multitasking would only slow down his cultivation speed slightly. I can't accept this. Such luck. The virtual universe company has so many Undyings here, and there are trillions of beasts gathered here. This inheritance, it's so powerful. Such luck is definitely hard to come by. Luo Feng swiftly calculated in his mind, trying to see if there was any way for him to receive more of the inheritance. Accepting the 1200 to 1300 levels of the inheritance, reaching the limit and being forced to leave, this was something Luo Feng wasn't willing to do.